Hi, welcome back to this is the first time I'm trying to film with my door open because my cat keeps wanting to come in, so this can only end well. My name's Kelsey, and today I'm going to show you all of the pans that I have in my collection. Now, when I was filming my Project 10 pan intro, I made a comment about not really having pan very many places in my collection because I tend to just hit pan and then use those things up. But after making that comment, I got the idea to sit down and look at how many things in my collection I actually do have pan on, and I will say it's still not a ton of things, but it is more items than I thought I had pan on. So today I thought I'd share those with you. I'm going to start with the one that I've already shown you, which is my ABH Carly Bible palette. This was my Pan That palette last year, but really only effectively from January to March because of world events. I have 4 shades with pan in it in this palette, plus this one empty one. I have this shade Bali, which is a champagne-y pink. This shade Bible, which is a mauve-y color. Down here I have Moo, which is a shimmery gold. And the shade up here in the top right, which is the shade Bowie, and that's an olivey brown. I know I have a different Pan That palette this year, but I really kind of want to finish up Bali this year because this is not just a shimmer, it's got pretty large micro glitters that fall on my face. So I want to use it up while everyone is still wearing masks, because then I can kind of hide that there's really intense glitter fallout on my cheeks. The next shade that I hit pan on is in the original ABH Norvina palette, and that is in the top left corner here. It's the shade Dreamer, which is kind of a golden champagne-y color. This is really loosely pressed. I don't think this even took 20 uses to hit pan on. I've decided there needs to be a connective tissue between all of these palettes that I'm showing. I'll go with the original Naked next, because it also has velvety packaging. I have pan in 3 shades, and then I've also used up 3 shades. The 3 shades that I have not used up yet are Sidecar, Half-Baked, and Toasted. Fun fact, originally I wanted to use these up and declutter this for my collection by the end of last year. However, I wasn't wearing eyeshadow very often in the middle of the year, so I didn't really get to finish these up, and despite the fact that this palette just turned 5 for me, I got it for Christmas of 2015. Performance hasn't really changed. I mean, it's not great, but it's Urban Decay Naked formula. It was never great to begin with. So now my goal is to still hopefully use these up this year. It'll maybe be a little bit difficult because I do have a different Pan That palette and they're kind of similar shades. Maybe not so much Toasted, but these 2 shades definitely have similar shades in the ABH Sultry palette, so they might be harder for me to actually use up this year. Moving from one Naked palette to another, this is the Urban Decay Naked 3. And I have pan in this shade Burnout. This is just more of a pale millennial pink. This is a shimmer shade, but it isn't super shimmery, which is true of both Urban Decay Naked palettes I own. I haven't tried any of the newer ones, haven't tried the honey or the cherry or the ultraviolet, but because it's not super shimmery, I tend to pair it with a topper shade. The one that I tend to pair it with the most is the Super Shock that's in the ColourPop Blush Crush palette, which is in the shade Papa Bottle, and I really like how those 2 shades work together. Completely unrelated, but this palette is impossible to clean. Do you see that bottom right corner? Every time I try and clean it, it just looks worse, so I apologize that this palette looks a mess on camera. I guess the best connective tissue I have is kind of keeping on the pink theme, but not at all. This has a pink, and it is the palette, and this is the color that I hit pan on, but this palette itself is not pink themed. Anyway, this is the Too Faced White Chocolate Chip palette, and I hit pan in the shade Raspberry Rose. So when people say that palettes are great for traveling, this actually was my travel palette when I played in my college's big band, because our colors, we'd wear all black with a purple tie. So I'd usually use this quadrant right here whenever we were playing shows, and then the rest of the palette I'd use whenever we weren't at shows but were, somewhere on tour. Most people have a problem with the fact that this is not very pigmented, and correct, it's not, and I do, have a problem with that for day to day, but because, for the most part, when I was playing trombone, I wasn't wearing any face makeup other than my eyes, the fact that it was more of a subtle shadow kind of worked for that situation. I keep going back and forth as to whether or not this has lost its scent, so I definitely need to work on finishing up this shade. And then I have massive dips in Sugared Raisin and Exotica, and I kind of want to hit pan in those too, and maybe use them up. But again, if the scent's gone off, I'm not sure how intensely I want to work on panning this before I just declutter it, And then I have one last eyeshadow, which is a single. It is the ColourPop Super Shock Shadow in the shade Mighty Morphin. This was from their Butterfly collection. Now, fun fact, I entirely bought this for the name. I used to be a really big Power Rangers fan, and when I say that, you might think, oh, that's cute, when you were a little kid. No, I was in high school when I was really obsessed with Power Rangers. I really don't interact with the show or the community anymore. I did see that this one was called Mighty Morphin and still had to buy it. So yeah, I bought this one entirely for the name, but I'm very glad I did because it works really well in my collection. I really like using it over shimmery golds that aren't shimmery enough. So maybe when I work on finishing up Half-Baked from that Urban Decay Naked palette, maybe I'll finish this up too. I think we'll stick with the ColourPop stuff that I have pan in. This one is actually in my Project 10 pan. This is the ColourPop Super Shock Shadow from the Disney Designer Collection in the shade Part of Your World. As you can see, I have very major pan on this. This is just a nice shimmery pink. Then I also have pan and its friend from the same collection. This one is in the shade A Smile and a Song, and it's like a champagne-y gold. Obviously, I have less pan in this one, but my preference is slowly shifting towards using this one more color-wise, so I'm sure I will expand the pan in this easily in the future. I have one other highlighter, which is the Wet n Wild Mega Glow highlighter in the shade Blossom Glow. I don't know if you can see that pan super well. It's very reflective because of the ring light, but in the middle there, right there is pan. This is a very similar shade on the cheeks to the ColourPop one, so I'm not working on this a ton right now because this one is in my project pan, but I do want to work on using this one up because I think it is the oldest highlighter in my collection. That being said, I only purchased it in like spring of 2018, so it's not excessively old. It is only about to be 3, but it is, you know, it is the oldest one, so I do want to work on using that up. Next I have the Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector in the lighter shade here. This is just a little sample size, but as you can see, I am almost done with this. I won't repurchase this because I don't repurchase from Becca, but I do quite like the product. I do want to replace this, obviously, but the issue that I'm running into is that a lot of brands that come out with under eye correctors are putting hemp-derived products, CBD oil, in it, and I think that's a problem ingredient for me. I have the Flower Beauty one on its way now to try out, and if that breaks me out, then for sure CBD oil is the problem ingredient. Otherwise, it's just whatever Milk Makeup specifically uses in their products. But I do quite like this product. I have it under my eyes right now, and before I made the decision not to support Becca and Estee Lauder as a whole, I was originally planning on repurchasing this. Next is the other Project Pan item I have in here, which is the Ulta Mineral Blush in the shade Tiger Lily. This is the oldest blush in my collection, so it's good that I have pan in it, but I don't really love the color on me. I am wearing it today, although I don't think that's super obvious because I did go in with a super light hand on this. And I also only very recently hit pan on this. I think I hit pan on this last month. Finally, I have 2 lip products. They're both lip balms specifically. The first one I have is the Laneige Lip Sleeping Mask in the original berry shade. I made a joke about this in my 2020 empties, that this was going to be my first empty of 2021, and I am still on track for that. There is very little product left in here. This is the second full size of these I've used up. I've tried 4 different flavors that I will say, I mean, I obviously haven't used this one all the way up yet, but give it another week, I will have. And the berry flavor is the one that I like the least of the 4 that I've used all the way up. However, it's not my least favorite of the ones that I've tried. I do have Gummy Bear over next to me, and really that one should have been called like Sour Candy or something. It tastes like Sweet Tarts, and it's not my favorite. Definitely was hoping that it was going to be more like Sweet Candy, and it's not, but that's okay. I can still use it up. All that to say, I would absolutely repurchase this and already have minis of this flavor and all that stuff. And then finally, I have the NYX This Is Everything Lip Loving Balm. This is just a petroleum-based balm. I have no problems with it. It's just, you know, a petroleum-based balm. It's not anything revolutionary. Alright, so that was the 18 products that I have hit pan in. I will say that the one issue with, like, tracking what you've hit pan in is that I am someone who uses lip products primarily, and those, other than the potted lip balms that I showed you, don't really have pans because they're mostly in tubes or are sticks. So if there was a rational way to quantify hitting pan on, like, a lipstick or a lip balm or whatever that isn't just finishing it up, I would probably have double this number. That's it from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you stick around and see what else I release. Bye!